Hey guys and gals, welcome to another lesson on Screencastify. I'm going to try to be as succinct as possible today with this. I tend to ramble during these. So today we are going to be doing a game called Rhythm War. Okay, it's something that you should be able to play with the stuff that you have at home. It's a fun thing to play with a brother, sister, or a parent, whoever you're living with right now, or a friend. You could play it socially distanced if you want. So let's just do a quick rhythm review. If you know all of your note values, dotted included, and all the way to 30-second notes, then you don't have to watch this. You can skip it. Otherwise, here we go. So, whole note. That's worth what? 4 beats. Ah. Half note. How many beats? 2. Ah. Quarter note. How many beats is that worth? 1 beat. Eighth note. How many beats is that worth? That's worth half a beat. But if we put 2 eighth notes together, their flags disappear and it becomes a TT, which is worth 1 beat. Next, we're going to keep going. Next smallest note is a 16th note. By itself, that's worth a quarter of a beat. But if you put 4 of them together, you get this rhythm. And that is equal to 1 beat, right? A quarter plus a quarter plus a quarter plus a quarter is 1 whole. And the last one, intermediates, this is just for you, not for you juniors, is the 30-second note. 3 flags. Crazy, right? That is worth, what do you think? Yeah, an eighth of a beat. So if we had 8 30-second notes, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. You made them look like ticka-tickas. These are beautiful. You would have 3 lines across. Ta-da! Yeah, those are 30-second notes. That would equal 1 beat. Now back to these guys here, your 8th and 16th. If you have 2 16ths and 1 8th, that makes a T, a T, or a syncopa, and all of those are worth, you guessed it, 1 beat. If you were to add up the fractions, it would add to 1. So a fourth plus a fourth, that's a half, plus another half, that's a whole, and then same for all of those. Okay. So on to dotted notes. Remember when you add a dot to a note, it adds half the value to the note. So we already know, we'll stop here. We already know that a whole note is worth 4 beats. So if I add a dot to it, I'm adding the whole note plus half of what the whole note is worth. So if a whole note is worth 4, half of 4 is 2. So a dotted whole note is 6 beats. We know this half note is worth 2. What's half of 2? 1. So it's worth 3 beats. A quarter note is worth 1 beat. Add a dot to it. Half of 1 is half. So this is worth 1.5 or 1.5. Okay. 8th note, oops, I shouldn't have added the dot yet. An 8th note is worth half a beat. If you add the dot, half of that is 1/4. So it's equal to 3/4 of a beat, or 0.75. Okay, so those are the dotted notes that you'll need to know for this game. Next, I'm going to show you a video of how to play the game and what you're going to need. But basically what you'll need is a bag, like a bag that you can't see through, some coins, or cut out some circles, and a blank piece of paper. And that's it. Okay? Actually, 2 pieces of paper, 1 for each player. Okay, so I have my whiteboard instead of a piece of paper. You can have your own paper. It's up to you. I also forgot to mention if you wanted to use dice or die for this game, you can. If you don't have them, that's okay. So I've got a paper bag with little chips in it. You can just cut up pieces of paper, or if you have a, I don't know, a jar of pennies or anything, you can just put in the bag, okay? If you are not using these, you can just, when it's your turn, put your hand in the bag, pull out a random amount, and those are the ones you have to work with. Or you can roll, and I would grab 7, and then that's how many I have to work with. So let's say I go first, and this is how many I get. So each one of these are note heads. Now, as you can see, these are filled in, so it'd be really hard for me to do a whole note or a half note, but I'm just going to do, if I wanted it to be a whole note, I'll write it below. If I want it to be a half note, I'll write it below. Otherwise, I can just add the stems to these. So maybe I'm going to make these guys a TT and these guys a TT, and I'm actually going to make this a ta. Okay, so here's my rhythm. Ta, ta, T, 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 T. If player 2 is able to clap and say my rhythm properly without mistakes, they get to keep all of my note heads. If they are unable to do it and they do it wrong, then I get to clap and say my rhythm, and if I do it correctly, I get to keep my note heads. If both of us mess up on it, the note heads go back in the bag, okay? So next it's player 2's turn. They got 10, so in interest of time, I'm not going to do 10. But player 2 decides that they're going to be a little sneaky here, and they're actually going to do a harder rhythm because they want player 1 to mess up. So decided I'm going to do an 8th note, a quarter note, an 8th note, a dotted quarter note, an 8th note, and then make this into a TT. That's a lot for one person to do. So if, let's say player 1 gets it incorrect and player 2 tried to be sneaky but also couldn't do it, then it goes back in the bag. But this would be a cinco pata ti ti ti. Okay? So syncopas are a good one to play because they look hard, but if you remember that they're syncopas, then they're easy to do. Also, you can do T-tickas and tickatees, right? I could have made this a tickatee with these 3 if I wanted. So it's up to you what rhythms you want to do. You play the game until you get bored or you run out of chips, and whoever has the most at the end wins.